Hello everyone, and welcome to 1,000 Movies to Watch Before You Die, Episode 1. Basically, I pick a theme, genre, or director, and I discuss 10 films that I think are essential viewing experiences for whatever I pick. These are all movies I have seen, whether it be for this project or not, and I think they are worth your time, whether they are good or bad. This is also not a ranked list, so my number 10 can be much better than my number 1. Treat this as if it were an assortment. Anyway, let's get started. Today's theme is animation. This includes traditional animation, stop motion, CGI, and any other kind of medium that is considered to be animation. The first film I've selected is Akira. Released in 1988 and directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira is one of the most influential anime films of all time. It paved the way for many anime films, TV shows, stories, and the anime genre as a whole. Guaranteed, there is one film you have seen that does a reference to this film in some kind of way, whether it be the iconic motorcycle slide, the theming of a mass weapon being locked away, among others. Akira looks very different from a lot of Japanese anime we see today, but it definitely helped to pioneer the genre in a lot of ways, especially with all of these scenes of destruction and chaos, which is a staple in anime. Next up, we have Kubo and the Two Strings. I originally was going to go with Coraline here, but my partner told me to consider Kubo. So with edibles in hand, we watched it, and I could not have been more pleased with what graced my eyes. Coraline was minimalist and only had a few characters on screen at a time and had a very limited environment to work with. For 2009, it was great, but it's not Kubo. Kubo was directed by Travis Knight and released in 2016, and this is beautiful. Every single frame is like a work of art. The color, the depth, the amount of stuff going on in the background, the individual hairs moving, and everything looked so silky smooth. The sad part about this film is that more people know more about Coraline than they do Kubo, and I think that is an injustice to Kubo because of how absolutely stunning it is. The story is fantastic, the visuals are fantastic. I am in love with this film, and I want you to fall in love with it too. If you like what you see, I encourage you to take some time out of your day and watch this movie. You won't regret it. After that, there's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Released in 2023 and directed by two people I've never heard of, this film rocks. I've actually never watched the first one, Into the Spider-Verse. I know, yell at me in the comments, but I have seen Across the Spider-Verse, and it is visually stunning and a technical marvel that an animated film can be so beautiful and look like it's projected at 15 frames a second. Every minute detail, color scheme, and character design is just so stellar and well made. Mainly that's because the poor animators worked on this film like it was slave labor until it was perfect, which absolutely sucks and is a vile business practice and proof that capitalism is meant to exploit the most vulnerable people. Regardless, a beautiful movie with a great story that shows how far the animated medium has come over the past several decades. Besides, look at this man. Look at this absolute beefcake. Then there's Loving Vincent, a 2017 film directed by Dorota Kobiela and Hugh Welchman. It is a biopic that is done entirely in hand-painted frames stylized after Van Gogh paintings. This beast took over 8 years to make, and the payoff is spectacular. Quite literally, every single frame is a work of art, and it really adds a lot to the actual story, which is about Van Gogh and his death. There is nothing like this, a feature-length film that is completely hand-painted, not before and not after. I could not recommend this film more. Now we get to Howl's Moving Castle. I could really put any Hayao Miyazaki film here, as they are all equally beautiful in their own ways, but I put this one here specifically because it is probably his most accessible film. Released in 2003, this movie is definitely a comfort film for me. Not only is the story amazingly meaningful, but every frame has so much detail and eye candy. It's really no wonder Miyazaki films are revered for their innovation and attention to detail. There are not enough words to describe how much I love most of Miyazaki's films, and this is clearly no exception. Next on the list is Fantastic Mr. Fox, another stop-motion film, this time directed by Wes Anderson and released in 2009. It's a kids movie, but the characters feel like adults. The stop motion is, yes, a little imperfect, but the imperfections add so much to the movie. Even the fur, which is made with actual animal fur, has all of the indents of human fingers in it, and you can see the fur move differently in every frame. The imperfections add to the theme of imperfections that the film discusses. It is probably one of Anderson's most aesthetically pleasing films, and also the easiest to digest. Moving on, we have WALL-E, directed by Andrew Stanton and released in 2008. Easily the most political film in Pixar's filmography. It also happens to be the most beautiful CGI animated film I have personally seen. Is it because I grew up with this film? Maybe. But no one can deny that space, looking like this, is gorgeous. This film would be the third to to last film from Pixar that I consider to be good, as everything else they've put out past Toy Story 3 has been subpar at best and atrocious at worst. But I digress. WALL-E is a beautiful film with a lot to look at and set the tone for the rest of Pixar's works. It may not be the most impressive film technically, but it definitely is the most well-rounded. Then we get to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It was released in 2022 and was directed by Joel Crawford, and I was so shocked by this film when I went to see it in theaters. I thought it would just be a kids movie, and it turned out to be so much more than that. The story is fantastic, the depiction of panic attacks and anxiety is flawless, the villains are so ridiculously memorable, and the animation puts half of Disney's stuff to shame. It's like the animated Spider-Man movies, but made with CGI instead of 2D animation, in the sense that it feels like a comic book movie. Great film. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch, you will not be disappointed. Our second to last film is Over the Garden Wall. While yes, technically a mini TV show, you can still watch every single episode and it basically equates to a full-length film at just over 100 minutes. We're making it work, and I'm making it count. Released in 2014 and directed by Nate Cash, it is a Cartoon Network miniseries that screams autumn. I love to rewatch this every time the color of the leaves change because it feels so cozy. The animation isn't the most advanced and technical thing I've seen, but the use of color and aesthetics are so mesmerizing that you can't pull your eyes away from the screen. The story itself is gripping and emotional and meaningful. Really, it is the perfect miniseries for when you're tired of watching films and need something different. I cannot recommend this more. My final pick is The Tale of Princess Kaguya. It released in 2013 and is directed by Isao Takahata, and even though it is not my favorite Studio Ghibli film, I think the animation style is probably the most unique of all the Ghibli films. It looks so stunning and it really makes you feel immersed in the story, like you're looking at traditional Japanese folklore paintings stitched together to create a beautiful narrative. This really shows the versatility of the animation medium, because not every animated film needs to have 5 supercomputers rendering every frame, and not every animated film needs to be traditionally hand-drawn in 2D. That's really what animation is all about, using 24 frames a second in any way you want to tell a story, drawn or generated in any way you like. These are, of course, just my picks for essential animated films to really give someone a good idea of what the animation genre contains. As with all kinds of film genres, I definitely missed some that should be on this list. If you think I missed something that should probably be on this list, let me know in the comments and explain why. I always read the comments and I implore everyone to discuss. As always, I'll see you all later.